Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel. Today, taking a look at Sandman Mystery Theater #1 by Matt Wagner and Guy Davis. A side effect of the popularity of Neil Gaiman's Sandman in the late 80s, early 90s was that DC, wanted to capitalize. The name Sandman, Neil Gaiman's made it big now. How do we capitalize? Well, there's another Sandman. Neil Gaiman had reimagined the character from the Golden Age into his new, endless character. But they had Wesley Dodds, the original Sandman, sitting on a shelf. So they took him down, dusted him off, and gave him to Matt Wagner and Guy Davis and said, let's do a new series about Wesley Dodds, the original Golden Age Sandman. And this is actually my first time reading Sandman Mystery Theater. I'm still in the middle of this collection here. This is book 1, collecting the first 12 issues. It apparently ran for 70 issues, was very well received, critically acclaimed, and I've just never got around to it. And I'm really enjoying it so far. It is an ode to pulp noir and pulp fiction type stories from the 30s. The story itself is set in 1938, so it's in keeping with the popular stories of that time, and it's really well done. And I think Guy Davis is a really good artist to be kicking this off. I'm not really familiar with his work outside of this. This is my first Guy Davis, but I've liked what I've seen. So I'll just walk it through and see what I can point out, anything that might be interesting here. We open with a dream sequence, appropriately enough. This is our main character, Wesley Dodds, having a dream, and he's kind of getting these visions sent to him via the dream. He sees a woman who turns into a man in black, and that man in black, we recognize the mask. That is Neil Gaiman's dream. That's his Sandman. And what Neil Gaiman does in his story is he retcons the origin of Wesley Dodds so that Wesley saw the Endless in one of his dreams, and then designed his own costume to kind of mimic the helmet that Morpheus has. And you'll see, so he uses a World War I gas mask as his mask, and it has a similar proboscis, a similar snout. And you could even see it just in the next panel, because now he's thinking of men at war who are dying of poison gas. And then we see all these naked bodies caught in a web, a spider's web. And that's where he wakes up. And that's going to lead us into the first story arc here, which is called the Tarantula. But before we get to that, we get introduced to another character, Diane Belmont, who's the daughter of the district attorney, and she is going out for the night. Her father doesn't want her to leave. He doesn't want her to leave the house, saying, "What are you going out to clubs this late? It's dangerous, And she's, at the earliest part of women's liberation, of reclaiming independence and personhood, and saying that I could do what I want. I'm not going out to have fun with my friends. Leave your antiquated ways of thinking behind, Daddy-O. This is the future we're living in." So they're arguing as she's getting her stuff together. Really good pacing throughout the issue. You can really feel like movement throughout the house. She picks up her purse, and we see a shadow behind her with a irregularly shaped head. And as she leaves this room, a gloved hand reaches out to click on the lights. She does eventually leave, and her father goes back into that room, and he finds a man in a gas mask rummaging through his wall safe. Guy pulls a mysterious-looking gun on him and fires this green gas at him. And the way that the gas is rendered is pretty interesting throughout. It's always this kind of unnatural green color. It's the only time you'll see that particular shade of green throughout the series, from what I've read so far. Color in general plays a really interesting part in this. Primary main characters will have blocks of more noticeable poppy colors, whereas the backgrounds will usually have one. It will just be one shade. Like right here, we're just seeing all yellow, and we'll see that continue where the background just gets washed out in one color, so that the characters can really pop in the foreground. Guy Davis's cityscapes are also pretty interesting. There's an even better one on the next page. I'll save for that. But Guy Davis has an interesting style because, from what I can tell, I think he utilizes, I think it's called a deadline, which what I'm trying to convey is that all of his line weights are exactly the same. It doesn't look like there's any taper. I don't think he's using a brush. I mean, I'm not the one qualified to really say that, but the lines in the background are the same thickness as the lines in the foreground. And when he needs to create a lot of depth or value or gray, then he'll just add more of the single thickness lines to an area to create that. Like these are all, you could tell, just done with the same pen. He's just kind of going in there and scribbling. Um, so that's one of those things that's like, it tells you that there's no real wrong way to draw an ink. Like as long as you're capturing your style, you know, you could look at somebody who knows how to do the brush to get thins and thicks, do deep black shading. You know, that's not all that inking is. There's other options available to you. This is a completely viable one. I think Guy Davis's figure drawing, particularly his face drawing, I'm not the biggest fan of, just aesthetically. All of his characters, even the women, have this very wide set jaw, and like kind of large like cheeks as well. And so all of the faces do have a tendency to kind of blend together. And one thing I did find happening while I was reading this was confusing a lot of the male characters with each other, because maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention to like what color suit they were wearing, but a lot of the faces kind of look the same, kind of same structure. Diane and her friend Catherine stayed out all night. They're going home, riding home together in a cab as the sun is rising. This is an interesting cityscape. This is what I wanted to point out before, because this is just that like those scratchy lines just done over and over again to create these vague shapes of buildings that are being washed out by the solid orange glow of the sunlight. Interesting way to draw a cityscape. Catherine is walking into her house, reaching for her keys, get a little glimpse of a milk truck that's oddly in focus behind her. I wonder if that's going to play a factor into anything soon in the story. And she is abducted. She's abducted by the tarantula, the person that's been kidnapping women and holding them hostage. It's the next morning. Diane attends a ball, a social event with her father, where, again, look at that color in the background, just solid gray background. And that allows just like suit colors to kind of pop. Even the skin is really, really pale for the most part. And it's here that Diane is introduced to Wesley Dodds, this kind of normal looking, portly guy, glasses. And he isn't like the other boys. He's got, he's not quite as impressed by all of the guest stars. They got Jolton Joe DiMaggio that's shown up. He's not super interested in the business. He's taken over his father's business, just because it was left to him kind of abruptly. He doesn't really have too much of an interest in it, and she gravitates towards that. That he's a little bit disinterested in this high society like charade that's going on. So they immediately, you kind of get senses from panels like this where they're forming a little bit of a connection. Wesley and this judge character go home together. I love the change in the lighting. We're going from inside to outside, and it's dark out. There's not a ton of lights, and so we have darker colors, but they're all still one solid color, a solid like green here. And the judge is just talking about how he retired and he hates seeing what the world is coming to now. They got this tarantula on the loose, uh, and Wesley is just taking in all this information. And he does something mysterious when he gets home. He tucks in a little puppet to bed and tells it pleasant dreams before he leaves. He doesn't get into the bed himself. I wonder who Wesley Dodds really is. What secrets is he keeping? Diane is given the news by her father that Catherine has been taken. She doesn't know how this could be. They rode home together, but all it takes is just one moment. So she wants to become involved here. Like she wants to help with the investigation, even though she hasn't really shown interest in her father's work before. He wants her to get a law degree. She's not super interested. Now she's got a personal interest, so she's asking questions. And we have a cool montage sequence here where we see the Gas Man's character creating his poison gas or his sleeping gas. And I wonder, I don't know if this is like airbrush, because you could see like speckles all along the outside of this flame. I think it might be maybe just white media that's like speckled and then just colored over. But again, you've got that bright, weird reanimator fluid green that really stands out. I like that sequence. Nice quiet sequence, just like gearing up for the night. And now we're meeting some new characters here. This is a meeting of I don't know about gangsters, but some individuals on the outskirts of the law. This is Albert Goldman, and we get introduced to his daughter Celia Goldman. She is an interesting character. They've got these weird incesty vibes going on. She calls him darling, like a little bit too familiarly. We also meet Celia's brother, Roger, who's just kind of a drunk and a layabout. And we see that the Sandman is watching this gathering very closely, so he knows something's going on. Really good lighting again there as well. We also meet Albert's wife, who is a drunk. See, look at how like severe all these faces are. They all have just like really low set, wide jaws, big chins, big noses. Not my favorite like aesthetic looking face that exists, but for a mood, for a tone, I like Guy Davis's work here quite a bit. When the mobsters meeting ends, they leave the house and they find that all of their drivers are asleep, which is funny. They've been put out with Sandman's gas. Back to Diane trying to leave the house. She wants to go out and have fun again, but instead, as she's leaving, Wesley Dodds shows up. He was hoping to get some information from the DA about his father and his business dealings. He's fishing for information because he's got some things up his sleeve. And since he's there now, Diane's not so interested in leaving. So now she's interested in Wesley and wants to stick around, see what he has to say. They talk a little bit about Albert Goldman and how he got his fortune, what he's up to nowadays, just trying to gather information. These, again, another cool like color page where Wesley's suit kind of almost blends in with the background there, but it stands out enough. But her dress is really the thing that mostly pops. Like she's kind of almost the focal point, I would say, in this first issue. Like she's almost our main character rather than Wesley. After Wesley leaves for the night, we cut to an alleyway where some guy is throwing out there's garbage, and another really just well-paced sequence of like something that's dawning on him. The establishing shot, a close-up of him dumping out the trash, and then the splash of red that hits his hand. Effective use of color, effective use of sound effect. This is John Costanza doing the lettering, right? Oh boy, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's John Costanza doing the lettering. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. But he's a good letterer. We've seen his work in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. He notices the blood, looks up, sees this body hanging, and the body is splayed out in the way so that their limbs are pulled across and hanging. Shadow kind of looks like a spider, looks like somebody caught in a spider's web. So this is a victim of tarantula, and we see this blonde hair. We know Christine had blonde hair, so now we're nervous. Oh no, Christine's dead. Christine's gotten it. Body's been found, and Diane wants to again come. She wants to help. She wants to help with the investigation. She shows up, and a lot of the cops are giving her looks about, like, why is she here? And it's mentioned that they're a fraternity. They're not used to seeing women out involving themselves in situations like this and dealing with these social issues of women's rights. There's also other, like, racial stuff that comes up later that's mentioned. Not shying away from the fact that this is 1938. There are still prejudices that need to be dealt with. She is a woman who's trying to stand out from the fraternity of the people in charge around her, and it's well handled. She goes into the restroom to wash up. There's nobody else in the ladies' restroom. No one's. There's only been men around, so nobody's checked the women's room, and there is someone lurking in there who's listening in to what is going on, and it is the Sandman. We get our big reveal on the last page of his full outfit. You can see that you get the really good look of the gas mask, kind of mimicking what Morpheus from Neil Gaiman's Sandman looks like. Solid, really great, really poppy last page. I liked it. I liked the noir style. Think it was really well handled. I like Guy Davis's artwork. I like Matt Wagner's pacing. So I've been enjoying reading through this. I don't know how far into this I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to go all 70 issues, but I certainly liked it. And I know that new artists come in and out of this series as well. So let me know if there's anything that I missed in this issue. Let me know which portion of this run you particularly like. If it stays this solid all the way through to the end, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.